another person is termed as communicable diseases. Any disease that can be transferred from one person to another is termed as communicable diseases. And also, there are some diseases that can be transferred from one person to another. That is known as non-communicable disease. Can you give me an example of non-communicable disease?
Uh, cystic no man, miss.
Okay, let me help you out. Non-communicable disease, for instance, now, disease that results from multiplications of cells from the body, like cancer, for instance, is a non-communicable disease. If you touch someone or you see someone that have cancer, you can't contact cancer from someone. So cancer is a non-communicable disease. And also in plants, there are also deficiency in nutrients in plants cannot be contacted to another plant. So that's a non-communicable disease for plants. So we're going to move forward now to the types of pathogen. There are four various types of pathogen. We have the virus. Raphael,
Yes, ma.
okay, can you mute your mic until maybe when I need you to speak? Okay, good. So there are four types of pathogen. We have the virus, bacteria, fungi, and protists. Now, these are the four main type of pathogen. You have to know it. You have to have it at the back of your mind anytime, any day. When they ask you what is pathogen, what causes disease, and there are four major pathogens that causes disease. We have the virus, bacteria, fungi, and protists. Now, virus, it affects both humans and plants. The same with bacteria, fungi, and protists. Now, virus, when it affects human, an example of it that affects human is the HIV/AIDS. We know this is a virus infection. Also, tobacco mosaic virus is an example of infection that affect plants. Also, for bacteria, we have salmonella. This affects humans. I will go into details. I'm just giving you an overview. And agrobacterium, this affects plants. Then we go to fungi. When it's affecting human, you will see an example of athlete's foot. And when it affects plants, an example is rose black spots. Then protists, when it's affecting man or humans, is malaria. That's an example. And for plants, we have downy mildew disease. So this is a clear picture. Can you see this diagram?
Wait, ma, can you go back? I was trying to write down the last one. So,
You said?
can you go back to the previous slide? I was trying to write down the last one.
Okay. So what's your question?
No, I just need to write down protists.
Okay.
Done, ma.
All right. So here you can be taking key points as I explain. For bacteria now, this is a diagram of a bacteria. A bacteria is a very small cell and it produces toxins. You know, I told you they have four types of pathogens. So bacteria, it's a very small cell. When it infects a human being, it produces dangerous toxins. These toxins are very harmful to human. And what it does is that when it gets into a human being, it starts replicating. It's just like when you get a biro, you break it into two equal half, or you get a bread, you break it into two equal portions. That's what a bacteria does. It keeps on breaking itself into numerous quantities. That's what we call by binary fission. It replicates by binary fission. So it keeps on breaking itself multiple times, and before you know, in no time, it's all over, like it's all over the human body. Inside the system is all contaminated by bacteria. So this is the way bacteria spreads infection. It replicates and infects the host. Whereas in the aspect of virus is not a cell, or rather we call them dead cells, because when they are outside, most times they do not have power to cause so many harm, although they infect bacteria also. But for it to infect a human being, it needs to get into the system and hijack the nucleic acid of the human being and start replicating its own genome. That is how virus infects human beings. It enters the system, hijack the nucleic acid, and start replicating its own copies. So instead of a human being having its normal nucleic acid, the virus will now start producing its own. Thereby, that is why virus infection is always very difficult to control than bacteria. So we have here, they uses the body cell of the host and replicates inside them. Antibiotics does not work on them. Unlike bacteria, that antibiotics work on them. For virus, it does not work on them. Now for fungi can be single cell or multicellular, and they have a structure called hyphae. If you notice, I didn't put the diagram for both of them, but subsequently in the other slides, you see the diagram. But for exam's sake, these are the two major diagrams for your level that's needed. If they will ask you to sketch a diagram, is only bacteria or virus, you end up seeing in most questions. That's why I put this two simple diagram for you to be able to memorize it. So another example here we have for fungal infection is rose black spots. It causes black spots on the leaf and reducing photosynthesis. I will go into all this in details. Now, protists. Now, protists are eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells means that these cells have definite nucleus. And sometimes protists tend to look like an animal, and sometimes they tend to look like a plant. So it's in between. So that's why when you see a protist, you can't say this is a plant, you can't say this is an animal. It tends to look like, sometimes it looks like a plant, sometimes it looks like an animal. So malaria is the most common type of protist that affects human. And malaria is a big case study in the world in general because of how they study malaria and talks about malaria. So protist is the only major protist you end up seeing in any discussion at your level is malaria, because it's the most talked about and is the only valid example for now. So I'm going to move into the next slide. Are you okay?
Could I have 2 more minutes on this one, please?
You said?
Could I have 2 more minutes on this one, please?
Okay. 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 Now I've told you they have four major types of pathogen. Can you list the four major types of pathogen?
Bacteria, virus, protist, and fungi.
Yes, that's it. So now we're going to be talking about how they are transmitted in general, because subsequently, when we move down, you see how specifically they are transmitted individually. So direct contact. First one is direct contact, shaking of hands and sexual contact. This is applicable for like shaking of hands and sexual contact. You see sexual contact for an example of HIV/AIDS when we move downward. Now, water, e.g., cholera from dirty water, air, e.g., cold virus from sneezing. Unhygienic food. Sorry, this air is supposed to be another bullet on its own. It's supposed to be five causes. So we have direct contact, water, air is supposed to be number three. Then unhygienic food, E. coli in uncooked food, and we have the last one, vector. Now this is malaria. I told you that malaria is an example of protist, what protist causes. So now malaria, mosquito is what causes malaria. That is the vector that carries malaria. So that is an example of pathogen transmission. So when we move further in the other slide, you will see how practically these are transmitted individually. So we have direct contact, water, air, unhygienic food, and vector. You can know the five, but always make sure that the list you can always remember is three. Direct contact, water, and air. Most times you should always remember it because it's just like something you use all the time. Direct contact with somebody, the water you drink, the air you breathe. So it's something that you should always have at the back of your mind. This is how pathogens are transmitted. So now we are going to viral disease properly. Now that's the first type of pathogen, virus. Viruses are not alive, like I explained earlier. They don't perform all life processes, like normal life processes, like respiration, irritability, they don't perform all.